Jordan Palmer, a coach at the Elite 11, the quarterback competition for high school quarterbacks. Mahomes, Watson, Josh Allen, Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. He's somebody for years I have leaned on from high school on. Who are these guys? He's the one that told me, go watch Caleb Williams in person. I did. It was wow. I know it was Rice, but it was wow. So I want to start with this. People talk about this all the time. Like I was listening to a show driving in this morning. I have a pretty brief drive to work. And they were saying, it feels like if Josh Allen doesn't win this year, it's going to become Jim Kelly. It's like the window closes. And I'm like, that's a little quick. To you, when you hear windows closing, what does that mean? Explain that to me.
Well, we all know that you got to have a quarterback and you got to have these other pieces around to have what teams say is a window. Another window teams talk about is you got a really good team and you got a quarterback on a rookie contract. So you can, fill the other huddles up with other talent from a salary cap perspective. But I think what a window is you've got a quarterback who, and this might sound cheesy, but genuinely believes that they can win it because they have him. Like we got me, we can win this. But then you also need the other pieces. You don't need a number one defense. You don't need the best offensive line in the league. But at these other elements of the team, you have to have people who can – you got to be able to win a game with your defense. You got to be able to hit a field goal. You got to be able to pin somebody down inside the 5 with your punt team. So you need these other elements. But some of these windows are wide open. They're panoramic, right? You look at the Chiefs, you look at the Bills, and it feels like a panoramic window here where I don't see the end in sight. The quarterback's young, and these other pieces are there, and pieces are going to come and go. And so I think of a couple of teams. The Bills is a perfect example of, because of these two people, because of Josh Allen, and the other person is because of Brandon Beane. The quarterback and the GM aren't going anywhere for a long time.
Yeah.
And so because those two pieces are in place, and the GM is the one who's setting this table whenever Stephon Diggs gets old and whenever the O-line needs to interchange out, because those pieces are in place, there's a couple of teams that have that panoramic window. And then there's teams that it's smaller, right? I mean, they got a year or 2 or 3 because of contracts and the age of guys, and that's kind of like a kitchen window. And then there's teams where you go, like Tampa Bay, I go, maybe this year, I don't know, but it's really hard to think 2 years from now, this is like a bathroom window. And it's hard to see a whole lot out of it because you have a very, very fixed amount of time where those pieces are in place.
Is there a quarterback, I was saying earlier, Trey Lance is going to get some starts, but man, that division, that schedule, he's got to win some of these early games like Seattle. He better win that game. Is there a quarterback week 1 where you do feel there's some pressure?
Yeah, I think just with everything that's been made about Tua Tagovailoa, the hype coming out, he was a pick before Justin Herbert. There's not a whole lot of debate on which one of those two guys was a better pick, and the success of Joe Burrow in his class as well. But now they've loaded up that roster. I mean, with Tyreek Hill and Waddle and all these guys around him, in a division right now that's really, I mean, the Jets are rebuilding, and New England, we don't know where they're at, so it's really Miami's got a chance to just go head to head with Buffalo. That everybody's going to pick to win that. So I think Tua is a guy that this has to work. Contractually, they haven't guaranteed him 3 years of being the start. This has got to work this year. So that's one guy where I go, because of what's at stake for him and who's in that huddle, the expectations are high. Another name that comes to mind is Ryan Tannehill. He had to have had one of the longest off seasons in football. To have the number 1 seed and throw 3 picks, he's talked about it in the media. He's talked about from a mental and emotional standpoint, some dark times. The fact that he talked about that kind of tells you a lot right there. So these pieces, and then all they really did was get rid of talented guys to throw to. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Ryan Tannehill. And then with Josh Allen, I mean, very few people get to enter into the season with realistic aspirations. Like a realistic goal is Super Bowl MVP and league MVP, where that's like on the table and realistic. And actually Vegas thinks that's what's going to happen. So those are the 3 guys that come to mind. There's other players that, everyone has pressure on them. Russell Wilson's got pressure on him, but not like those 3 guys. And so with Josh, the way this season's starting off, also the way the fan base feels about him, it's different. It's not I want to take a picture and I want to get a selfie and get an autograph. I mean, this Bills Mafia is different. I haven't seen this type of love and admiration over the top at times. for Josh Allen. And so I think those three guys right there entering this season, these are three guys who want that pressure too, but I think it's palpable in those three.
So last year, 5 quarterbacks get taken, kind of bumpy, right? And I kind of feel like already as we head into year 2, things are emerging. I do think Trevor Lawrence, he's got the offensive coach. He's got some weapons. They spent a ton in free agency. The division's sort of wonky. I think he's going to emerge as a real talent. Trey Lance has a great coach and a great roster. So we're going to know by about 8 weeks in if Kyle Shanahan has the patience for it. The one I worry about is Justin Fields. The O-line's a mess. I went and looked up this morning PFF. They don't have an elite O-lineman. They have one receiver, Moody, I like. The defense, they lost some, so he's going to have to win occasional shootouts. The defense is not as good. He's got a defensive rookie head coach. So I don't think it's going to be pretty. But what do you need to see, Jordan? What do you need to see if he goes 6-11, where you're like, slow down, everybody. This is good. This is not 6-11 man overboard. Let's get another guy. What do you got to, because I think we both realize that's a 4th place roster in that division. Mm-hmm. What do you got to see?
I think with these young guys, when they don't have a lot of answers, like you said it, I mean, the offensive line, there's a lot left to be desired. It's really easy to take one solid receiver out of a game from a defensive perspective. And I think Darnell Mooney has been unbelievable for being a 6th-round pick, but he's not in anybody's top 10 receivers in this league on their list. And so it's pretty easy to take a person like that out of a game schematically from a defensive perspective. And then there's some guys who can, Cole Kmet, the tight end out of Notre Dame. Yeah. I mean, I'm expecting him to have some growth. I mean, there's certainly some other players who can step up, but with Justin, it's going to be not making bad plays worse, right? The guard misses a block and he runs in your face. That can't turn into a scramble pick or a sack fumble. So there's going to be a lot of things that happen to the Bears offense that are not Justin's fault. Those can't become worse plays. He's got to use his athleticism to get out of those situations and to manufacture chunk yardage, not to put his team in worse situations. And we've seen this out of young guys. I don't have the stats off my head, but we've talked about it before. How many sacks Kyler Murray took his rookie year just because he was really mobile and athletic and ran into a lot of them. And so I think not making a bad play worse, and then he's just got to be able to weather the storm. Unfortunately, I think Justin Fields has had a great offseason. From all accounts, he's gotten a lot better and addressed a lot of things. I just don't think the Bears helped him out. I don't think they got a lot better.
Yeah.
All they really did was lose a really good receiver in Allen Robinson, a couple moves here. I don't know that they got any better around him. So the second thing is he's got to be able to weather that storm in what most people don't realize is the biggest media market in the NFL. New York and LA split. They both have 2 teams. Chicago is actually the biggest media market in the team. And I was a Bear. I've lived that. I've heard that. I've listened to players vent about it. So the magnitude of that can't get to him. And I don't think it will, but it's important that if this is a tough year, that doesn't get to him and he continues to improve regardless of how much improvement the team has around him.
Jordan Palmer's been doing it for almost a decade. It's called the Quarterback Summit. Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. You have a young kid that can quarterback. He's the beginning. The process starts with him. He's also hosting a podcast, co-hosting it, called The Room with the Texans quarterback Kyle Allen. As always, it's great to see you. You can check that out on YouTube, Spotify. You know where to get your podcast, peeps. Jordan, as always, it's great seeing you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.